So first off is getting accepted into the test center, getting admitted. You bring your admission ticket, you have your photo, but a lot of times students won't bring a government ID. They might only bring their university ID, which LSAT doesn't consider to be sufficient level of security. So bring your government ID and make sure that your government ID matches the name on your LSAC admission ticket. If there's a typo, that could be a problem potentially depending on how strict the proctors are. And let's say you got married and changed your last name, that could be something that raises a red flag with the proctors. And of course, it's absurd when you see that clearly your photo is the same and it's only a small difference, but rules are rules, they're legalistic in nature. And so just double check all of that in the final week. When it comes to timing, of course, the LSAT is strictly timed. So I want you to not wait until the end of bubble. If you're taking, for those of you taking the June LSAT, you're still doing it on paper. July, you might do it on paper as well. And so you don't want to wait until the 5-minute warning to bubble. Sometimes proctors forget to give the 5-minute warning, or maybe you forget to actually bubble until the very end. And of course, you want to have something in those grids on the Scantron. Otherwise, you could have solved everything correctly, but LSAC won't know. When you arrive at the test center, I don't want you to pay too much attention to other people in the room or in the lobby. Whatever they say could potentially set you off in some way if they brag about how little they studied and how well they're doing and it's not as better than you are, that might make you feel bad. And so I would say, for the most part, try to avoid other people because you never know what they're going to say. And then on the exam itself, don't try out something new on LSAT test day. A lot of times people will be trying one strategy and then that's not working for them, so they'll decide to totally change their approach. And that's fine if you're doing that a week or two out, but on the day of the exam itself, you don't want that to be the first time that you try out something new, because then if it doesn't work for you, of course, the stakes are fairly high. So that's a lot about stress reduction, silly mistakes. One other thing I want to cover before I wrap up this portion of what I'm talking about here is you want to properly simulate test day conditions while you're taking your time to practice tests. So in the final weeks before the exam, even the final month before, let's say you're doing a timed exam or 2 per week, you want to make sure that those timed exams are 5 sections, not 4. On test day, LSAC will include an experimental section, and you want that experimental section to be valued as highly as the real thing, of course. So maybe let's say you do exams 83, 84, and 85, and 86 in the last 4 weeks before the exam. You could splice in a section from exam 82 into each one of those later 4, and then later tally your results for 82. But of course, doing a 5-section timed exam is much harder than doing a 4-section exam. There's a level of endurance there. You also want to make sure you're timing yourself strictly at the 35-minute mark, and that you're not scoring yourself after each section and checking your results. It's very tempting to do. I used to do that also because you want that instant feedback, but on test day, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to have that break. So I really just want you to make sure that you're doing it as realistically as possible. For those who don't do it realistically, they typically experience a test day score drop. And I want you to make sure that you avoid that, because of course it can be discouraging if your result on the actual test day doesn't match up with what you expected. So the final week of the exam, Thursday should ideally be the last time you do a full-length timed exam as practice. Friday, the day before the LSAT, I just want you to rest altogether, take a hot bath, go for a walk, read a book, binge watch Netflix, whatever. But you want to be fresh and ready to go Saturday morning and walk into the exam and kill it.